Hello everyone, welcome to the Sack Race Reacts. We're talking all things Swindon today. John McGreal's exit, the ownership situation, and then we're going to run through some names in the frame for the Swindon job. Please do subscribe, like, and get involved in the comments below. There's plenty on the website at the moment involving the Barnsley situation. Swindon, obviously, Palace, Tottenham, Everton, they're all still looking for new managers too. But on to Swindon. We are joined by Rich from Loathed Strangers, a Swindon Town podcast. Rich, how are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me.
That's okay. We get straight into it. You're looking for your third manager in 2 months, I think. John McGreal left on Friday without even taking charge of a game. I don't think he was even in charge of a training session. Made a couple of signings, I think, though. But what was your initial reaction to his exit after only a month in charge?
Yeah, it was quite a surprise, really. I think a lot of Swindon fans were asking the question why John McGreal was appointed in the first place. But given where we were at the time, I mean, this summer has been dominated by quite a bitter court battle between Lee Power, who is the owner that's leaving, and Claire Mulfooney, who is the owner in waiting. And when John McGreal was recruited, I think Lee Power was very confident that it would go his way. So, I mean, they did need to recruit a manager, because to wait as long as we have without a manager would have been obscene. I think John McGreal came here on false pretenses. And when it was clear that Power and Co were bolting, and very, very quickly, he decided not to stick around, which is understandable, disappointing, because although not a spectacular appointment, it was a steady one, and one that we needed after the disaster class that was John Sheridan's reign. So it was hugely disappointing, and I imagine it's come as a bit of surprise to the new owner as well.
For people who perhaps aren't so clued up on this whole ownership situation, could you just briefly describe what's going on? And is it true? Is it Clem Mulfooney's going to come in soon, the club hopes?
Yeah, it certainly seems that way. So Lee Power has been trying to sell the club to an American company called Able. They're very mysterious. He was trying to sell them for £1, but Clem Mulfooney has 15% in the club and wanted to buy the club. So I'm not going to go into the huge legal details of that, but Clem Mulfooney wasn't going to disappear without, having the opportunity to buy the club, but Lee Power didn't like that. They tried various ways to try and get that sell to the Americans over the line, and it just hasn't happened. So it does look like, it's not been confirmed, but it's almost certain it's going to be Clem Mulfooney that comes in to take full control.
And on to, I guess it depends. It might be a while until they find a new manager then, who knows? But at the moment, a familiar face is at the top of the market. It's Mark Cooper, former boss, 11-10. Michael Flynn, 13-8. Robbie Fowler, 16-1. Paul Tisdale, 16-1. Neil Harris at 20-1. And there's a load of others around 20-1 and 25-1 as well. But we'll start with Mark Cooper, the favourite. He managed you for a couple of years. Did pretty well. He left and has since managed Notts County, Forest Green. He took into the Football League. But he's just signed a deal with Barrow, I think about a month ago, a 3-year deal. So he'll be managing them, we think, next season. What do you make of Cooper being the front runner?
I think it's quite absurd, to be honest. There is a Swindon fan who's claiming that he made up the rumour, and now it's sort of gone from there. The guy's just signed a 3-year contract, and when he was at the club, he was a Lee Power person. So he was here. He was brought in during the very early stages of Lee Power's involvement at the club. So I find it very, very surprising that anyone is linked to Swindon right now. As I mentioned before, I think this news took the new owner by surprise, and from what everyone was telling Clem Mulfooney, because he does have contact with several Swindon fans within the trust, is that McGreal is worth a shot. So there's no need to bring your own man in. So for him to leave now, you would imagine there's people scrambling to recruit, and hopefully they have people working within the country talking to potential candidates. But Mark Cooper, he was quite, he divided the fans a little bit, played a lovely brand of football. His personality, especially when we were up against it, sort of rubbed people up the wrong way. but we did play a magnificent style of football under Mark Cooper. So I wouldn't be too annoyed or against him coming back. But I'm always look forward, new names, new people. Let's see what they can bring to the table.
One name who's been spoken about quite a bit in the last few days is Michael Flynn, the Newport County boss. Done a fantastic job there over the last 4 or 5 years. They got them to 2 League Two playoff finals. He's been linked with jobs in League One, in the Championship in the past, and he was recently the favourite for the Wrexham job as well. Michael Flynn, would this be a name that would really attract the fans?
The majority, I would say. Again, I'm really surprised to see his name, but a lot of people tell me that he's not the happiest camper at Newport due to budgetary, and he's losing his best players every year, or certainly this year. So again, I think it would be a good, steady appointment for Swindon Town. I mean, if he did what he did for Scott Twine last year, he really sort of changed his game for the best, and he came back a much better player when he spent those 6 months or so at Newport. If he did that for Swindon players while in the Swindon job, that would go a long way. Again, he's reasonably local. Newport, Swindon, it's not a million miles away. It's a logical appointment from Swindon's side of things, but would it be a logical appointment for Michael Flynn? I'm not so sure, but I was really interested. I mean, we laughed at the notion that he was top of the bookmakers lists on the podcast, and we will look very silly if he does turn up at Swindon.
That's the thing. He stayed faithful to Newport so far, but whether a fresh challenge would sort of appeal to him, we have to wait and see, I guess. One man who really likes the Southwest is Paul Tisdale, who's seen him manage Bristol Rovers and other clubs around there. He's currently out of work. He's got plenty of experience, of course, but do you think this could be a possibility?
It is a possibility. I think it was a possibility the last time round when we were appointing McGreal. I think they did. I mean, rumours are that they did talk, and for whatever reason, it didn't happen. He was also linked to the Leyton Orient job at that point, and he didn't get that either. He's local again. I think if he's not based in Wiltshire, he's based nearby in the Bath area. So again, logical. I'm not too sure that appointment would go down as well with the fans as maybe Flynn would. Flynn is, possibly got more of a future in management than Tisdale. I think Tisdale's star has dimmed somewhat over the last year or two. So again, it's amazing that there are names on these lists at the moment, because we don't know. A lot of the names are the ones that appeared on the list last time around, like Robbie Fowler and Cooper and Tisdale, and they're coming back again. So I don't know if people are just applying the logic from who was fancied last time round, but we just don't know who's doing the interview process. We don't know if anyone is at the club who has the ability to do that at the moment. So it's managerial merry-go-round is one of my favourite times following Swindon, because you just get all these names and then you end up out of the blue with one. But yeah, Tisdale maybe, but I'm not entirely sold myself on him.
It is so difficult to predict, isn't it? Who knows? McGreal may even be back there next week. You mentioned names at Swindon. This job comes up so often, so we do see the same names like Fowler you mentioned. One name is Michael Carrick. Always see him in the mix. He's 33-1. Joe Cole, another rookie manager, 33-1. John Terry, the same. Do you think any of these big name, high profile former players could be tempted down to Swindon in League Two for their first stab at management?
It depends on what their ambitions are, really. If they really want to sort of manage a football club, some of them will have to go down. It seems now especially with Frank Lampard, what he did, he only needed to drop down to the Championship, and Gerrard went straight into the top flight in Scotland. And that generation of players now will probably ask themselves, why do they need to drop down to League Two? And it is an area of football that they're not as clued up on. Michael Carrick had a very short loan spell at Swindon in the late 90s, 6 games, 2 goals, I think it was. But we've always looked out for him since. We loved it when he was in World Cup squads and Euro Championship squads, because there was a representative of Swindon in there. That is a type of manager that Swindon built a really big and proud reputation on. So, when we had, especially in the 80s, when we went with Lou Macari, followed on by Ozzy Ardiles, followed on by Glenn Hoddle, there is a generation of fan, and I include myself in that always sort of hopes that we roll that dice again and give a young ex-pro an opportunity to manage a football club. And I love those sort of appointments. They're not always probably the most logical, but they're exciting and they get bums on seats. We had Paolo Di Canio here 10 years ago, and whether you liked him or not, you can't argue that it was a hell of an experience, and more people went into the ground. But somewhere in between Di Canio and maybe an absolute rookie would be nice, because Di Canio was quite full on.
Another one who's around the 33-1 mark as well, Di Canio. Rich, just to finish off on, if I could put you on the spot, who do you think should be the next manager? Or who do you think should be the next manager? And who do you think will actually be the next manager?
It's a very good question, and I don't know if I can answer it definitively. I think Swindon were quite battered and bruised at the moment as a fan base and as a club as well. And I think maybe it might be worth recruiting from within, or at least somebody who knows the club and has experienced the sort of stuff that we've gone through over the last year or so. At the moment we have nobody. We have a goalkeeper coach. We don't have sporting director. We don't have director of football. We don't have a manager. We don't have assistant manager. We don't have anything. So I would get somebody in at the moment that just knows the club, has experienced it, and there are senior players that could do it. Lee Peacock is our youth system at the moment as a coach. He doesn't want it, but Gareth Southgate didn't want the England job, but circumstances meant that he had to take it. And I think we need maybe someone from within to step up, even maybe like a recently departed pro in Paul Caddis. I know he'd come back in a heartbeat just to help out if he could. But I mean, out of the lists, if you want a gun to my head, Flynn would be a pretty good one. His football isn't the greatest in the world, but at the moment, our heads are at, let's not get relegated. Let's not do what Southend did. And I just can't see us sort of struggling with someone like Michael Flynn in charge. So I think that would be a very good appointment, but I think they need to absolutely be in the loop of what Swindon have gone through over the last year.
You can find all the odds on the website below in the description. Also check out @Loathed Stranger on Twitter. Great podcast. And Rich, thank you very much for your time. And hopefully there's a conclusion soon.
My pleasure. And here's hoping. Thanks.